Welcome to the Meaningful Jobs Podcast, Season 1, Episode 4. I'm Adrian, your host, and today I'm going to talk about one of the most meaningful startups that I come across. And this startup is called Brex, which is headquartered in the US. And the reason why it's one of the most meaningful startups that I came across is that it serves as the heartbeat of the startup economy. So why do I say this? If there's going to be an economy, there must be enough money to begin with. And what Brex does is that it provides all the credit that is needed to startups. And not only this, it does not give out loans based on how much startups have earned in the past, because let's face it, a lot of startups actually lose money at the onset, and that is why a lot of startups are not able to apply for any loans from traditional banks. We'll talk about banks later. There's a big problem in how lending applications are assessed in banks, but let's just go back to Brex. So what Brex does is that it only looks at the cash flow, mainly looks at the cash flow of startups. And let's say if a startup has maybe $2,000 or $3,000 per month in stable cash flow, then Brex will offer either a loan or a credit card that will have a predetermined credit limit based on the stable cash flow that startups have every month. So as I said, even if startups with only $2,000 or $3,000 per month in stable cash flow, they are still able to secure credit to further fund their activities. And for people who are not too familiar with how startups work, the reason why startups require a lot of money is because they want to gain market share ASAP, so that bigger competitors or even other like smaller competitors will not be able to compete with them in terms of time and money. Basically, startups are using funding to buy time to quickly expand into a market, and that's where Brex comes into play. So, as I mentioned, Brex is the heartbeat of the startup economy because it lends to startups, whereas in the traditional banking sector, loans are rarely made to startups unless they are nearly certain that a startup can repay its loans. And the reason why banks are reluctant to lend to startups is because they've got other lending opportunities that are much more attractive but not particularly beneficial for the economy. So banks by far are most likely to lend to people who want a mortgage, and that's because there is a collateral, a very easily seen collateral for mortgages, which is the property itself. If the applicant does not return money on time or cannot return money, the bank will at least get something back in return, which is the property. However, if startups shut down, banks won't be able to get anything back. That is a slight risk that Brex is taking, but as mentioned, it is lending based on stable cash flow, and it's very rare for a startup to close or to shut down if they can prove they've got stable cash flow for at least 6 or 9 months. And the problem with banks not lending to startups is that it does not encourage innovative activities. It only encourages people to buy property, then rent it out, and this is not that particularly beneficial for the economy. By charging high amount of rent, it's good for the banks because it means that the mortgage applicant can repay its money without problem. But it's not good for the economy because a lot of working class people, they have to pay sky high rent, and it reduces their purchasing power in other aspects, like purchasing for food, purchasing for, or even like maybe just going to shopping or traveling abroad. It's good for the banks, not good for the average person. And that is why I really love Brex. It actually lends to startups that do meaningful activities, and it encourages the startup economy to keep on expanding. And Brex, I believe, has benefited over thousands of startups already who does not have a track record of sales but has stable cash flow. And I strongly recommend you guys, if you're interested in this company, research them further. And they are hiring quite a lot of people. They're expanding pretty quickly, so do go to their careers page. And as I mentioned, this is a startup that I think is one of the most meaningful that I come across. So happy job hunting, and I'll see you in the next episode.